Hi, I'm Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio. In today's video I'm working on this vintage LeMoyne Star Quilt. Now this quilt top dates from about 1930 and it is hand pieced and it is very out of square. One side of the quilt measures 81 inches and the opposite side measures 87 inches. So that is a lot of fabric to ease in. So it is really important to stabilize this quilt top in order to help ease in some of that fullness. Now, I wasn't 100% successful. There are some areas in the quilt where there are some puckers in it, but I did the best I could, and overall the quilt looks really nice. Now I'm stitching in the ditch with the machine set on regulated mode, and it's at 11 stitches per inch. And I'm just stitching around the star points, going from left to right and then coming down the side of the quilt and then going back from right to left. And that just helps save some time. That way I don't have to do a lot of stops and starts. I just have to stop and start at each row instead of in each block there in the background fabric. And this little ruler is one of my favorites. I like this for doing the stitch in the ditch around small sections like this. Now for the quilting, I decided to keep it kind of light. I didn't want to do a lot of dense quilting. Dense quilting would have probably created a lot more puckers than what I had. So I'm doing some line dancing in these small background squares, just a loop from one corner to the next. And then for the larger blocks I'm going to be doing a spin feather, and I'm starting by quilting a frame around the block, and just it's a 1/4 inch frame, and then I'm going to start the feather in the center. And this is a spin feather, and it starts with a spiral in the center, so there's a little purple dot in the center of that block that I placed with a an air soluble marker, and that gives me my starting point. So I'm going to start with my spiral, and you can go around as many times as you want to create the size that you want for the center of your feather. And then I swing out with my first feather and then bounce back over the top and then quilt my next feather. So every other feather is quilted over the top. And that's the way you do a lot of formal feathers. And the spiral and quilting around that spiral gives it a lot of motion, and it gives it more of a whimsical look as opposed to a formal look. And this design I learned from Irina Bloom in a class that I took from her several years ago. And I like the whimsical feel that it gives to a quilt and the movement that it adds to it. So reaching into that corner and one more feather, and then that is done. Now for the smaller blocks, those are also marked in the center. And I just have to quilt from one corner up to that center point, make a loop, and then come back down. And do that on each side, and it creates a nice little design in there that is also whimsical and I think looks really well in this quilt. Now for the stars, I wanted also to do something, some light quilting and something that kind of reflects what's going on in the background. And with an 8-pointed star, you have a lot of fabric coming together in the center point, and a lot of times you'll have a really thick mound there where the piecer wasn't able to get the fabrics laid down really flat. Now the star I'm working on is pretty flat and it's not that much of a problem, but that was kind of an exception to the rest of the stars in this quilt. So I like to do quilting designs that avoid having to go right through the center of that star. So with this I am doing a what looks like an outline stitch overall, but it's all done in one fluid motion, just quilting up one side of the diamond, making a loop in the tip and then coming down to the other side, and do that all the way around that star. And it goes really fast, and you're able to avoid going right through the very center of the diamonds, and helps avoid getting stuck over that little mound that those points can make in a quilt. So that's all done and went really fast. So that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if so, I hope you subscribe and give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.